Some men are born into ease and security, while others become special when life doesn't treat them nicely. Jason Momoa is definitely of the second type. Many people see him as a very powerful and tall figure, like Aquaman, the King of the Seas, or Khal Drogo from Game of Thrones. He is built like a myth. But behind that picture is a life marked by absence, struggle, rejection, pain, and the need to keep living. Jason Momoa was born Joseph Jason Namakiha Momoa on August 1, 1979, in Honolulu, Hawaii. For people from other places, Hawaii seems like heaven. The smell of salt water, the beat of the waves, and the joy of island life should have been a great start. It was great for a short time, though. He was only a baby when his parents split up, and that early breakup shaped a lot of his life. The artist his father was from Hawaii became more of an idea than a person. The photographer who was his mother was of mixed European descent and raised him by herself. They went to Norwalk, Iowa, which was very different from Hawaii. There was no longer an ocean. Instead, there was flat country and long winters. Instead of the island's rich variety, there was a community where Jason stood out right away. Many people around him had never heard of his name, and he was tall and looked different. Kids are quick to notice differences and can be mean about it. Jason knew as a child that he didn't fully fit in. Not in Iowa, and not all the way in Hawaii when he went there. The lack of his father had a quiet but strong effect on him. It wasn't shocking or loud, it was the quiet kind of loss that shows up in little ways. Things that happen at school, seeing other boys with their dads, and the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you are picked and cared for. In the end, Jason said that being absent made him feel like he had something to prove. He felt like he had to be bigger, louder, and stronger just to be seen. But his mother knew there was something burning inside him. Instead of trying to stop it, she told it what to do. She taught him how to rock climb in the rough landscapes of South Dakota when he was a teenager. Jason found something pure there, surrounded by huge rock shapes. The climb did not care about him, his background, or what he needed. Strength, attention, and endurance were all that was needed. He did everything he could. That event became a metaphor for his whole life. He was always climbing and pushing himself up, even when it seemed impossible. Jason went back to Hawaii after high school to reconnect with his roots and figure out his future. He did any job he could find, like a lot of young people. He worked as a waiter and folded clothes in surf shops. He was not famous at all. There was no clear way forward, all that there was a quiet hope that something bigger might be out there. Then something happened that made everything different. He caught the eye of a fashion designer, who told him he should try modeling. Jason quickly became well known and even won Hawaii's Model of the Year award. That being said, modeling was just the start. Soon after, he tried out for the TV show Baywatch Hawaii, going up against more than 1,000 other prospects. It was impossible for him, but he got the lead part. It looked like everything was going to work out for a moment. But getting ahead in Hollywood isn't always easy. After Baywatch was over, Jason was stuck. The business saw him as just another pretty face and not a real actor. The doors shut quickly. It took him almost 5 years to find work that was important to him. It didn't interest the agents. Tryouts didn't lead anywhere. The same business world that had briefly taken him in now didn't care about him. Those were some of the worst years of his life. He had small parts, projects that didn't last long, and trouble with money. Even though the dream was still there, it seemed far away. A lot of people would have given up. Jason wasn't. Something stronger than ambition drove him to keep going. He didn't want to disappear. When he was cast in Stargate Atlantis, things began to change. It wasn't a huge part, but it was important. It helped him feel stable and see again. It kept him in the game long enough for the next chance, which was the one that would change everything. He was cast as Khal Drogo in Game of Thrones in 2011. To get the part, he did a traditional war dance during his tryout, which was a brave and memorable move that blew the casting directors away. In a moment, Khal Drogo became a star. The role showed Jason in a way that no one had seen him before, fierce, strong, and in charge. Welk learned that he couldn't compete by copying other people as his work went on. He instead leaned toward a style that was easy for him, one that was soft, controlled, and musical. Other bands were trying to be bigger and more energetic, but he was more interested in making something polished and reliable. Someone in the crowd said that his music was champagne-like, which means it was light and bouncy. Welk liked that statement so much that he made it his brand, Champagne Music. He became successful because of this personality. A lot of reviewers missed something he saw. There was a big audience that didn't want change or excitement. They wanted to feel better. They wanted to feel at ease. That's what Welk gave them. When TV first came out in the early 1950s, he put a lot of his own money into a weekly show, which was a big risk. It worked out. People quickly liked his way, and his show went from being broadcast locally to being seen all over the country. He was one of the most famous people in American culture by the late 1950s and early 1960s. But the picture he showed on the screen didn't fully show what was really going on. Welk had a lot of power over his performers. There were rules about how to act, look, and behave. The business he had built could not be harmed by anyone else. This need to be in charge led to the firing of Alice Lawn, one of his most famous singers, which was one of the most controversial events in his career. She was officially fired because she was performing in a dress that showed her knee, which Welk said didn't fit the show's image. But a lot of people thought the real reason was a disagreement over pay. She asked for a raise, but Welk didn't want to talk about it, so he fired her and said it was a moral problem. The public outrage was strong, and he later tried to bring her back, but she said no. This showed a different side of Welk, one that cared more about control and image than about being fair. It also showed the difference between the good guy he seemed to be and the tough choices he made behind the scenes. Race was a big part of another complicated part of his story. Arthur Duncan became a regular performer on the show in 1964, making him one of the first black artists to get so much attention on a national variety show. Although this was a big step forward, the show never said out loud how important it was. Duncan put on shows often, but the race barrier he broke wasn't given much attention by the public. He dealt with problems in a quiet way, choosing to focus on his work rather than speaking out against the system. In the late 1960s and early 1970s, American culture started to change, and network directors began to think that Welk's style was out of date. In 1971, ABC canceled his show, even though it had a lot of viewers. It wasn't performance that made the choice, it was the people who lived there. The network wanted younger people to watch. But Welk wouldn't go away. He took charge of his future instead by syndicating the show on his own. He set up his own network of stores and showed that his fans would still stick with him. The show was a hit for years, showing that major networks had misjudged how popular he was. Welk was also a very successful businessman behind the scenes. A lot of his musicians made low wages, but he became very rich by making smart investments in real estate, songwrites, and production. While he was at the top of his game, his net worth reached about $150 million. His business company included a lot more than just TV. His official retirement came in 1982, but he still managed his businesses. Even after he died in 1992, his work lived on through reruns, licensing, and keeping files safe. Lawrence Welk's life is full of different things. He went from being very poor to being very successful. Behind the scenes, he kept tight control over everything, making the world warm and simple. He brought peace to millions of people even though the choices he made were sometimes hard and controversial. In the end, it's not just his success that makes his story so interesting, it's also how complicated it is. The man who sold America a picture of innocence was also a smart businessman, a perfectionist, and a tough survivor who changed people through suffering. He made his show look easy, but his real life was anything but easy. On March 11, 1903, Lawrence Welk was born in a little, remote town in